Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening in the Identifying Transferable Skills. My name is Esther Lanier, Senior Career Advisor for doctoral and graduate students at the USC Career Center. Thank you for joining me, and I will definitely be checking the chat for any questions you may have, and thank you for typing in your area of study. That will definitely be very helpful for me as I address this particular topic with you all. So I will do my best to answer each of the questions that you put in the chat, and let's get started. All right, so my objective for today is really to define what transferable skills are. What do employers look for? What transferable skills in action, what transferable skills in action is, and the resources you can utilize, and identify transferable skills in a sample job description, and of course, to communicate your transferable skills in your CV or resume. So transferable skills, they are your competencies, your attributes or skills that you acquired or developed during your experiences or activities that come along with you in all your various situations. They're also known as soft skills. Think of transferable skills as they go with you throughout your career journey, whether you stay within one particular path or you go from one industry to the next. You will be able to identify what those skill sets are that you have learned through your academics, activities, volunteer work, so that you can identify them as you go along with the various type of positions you will be able to identify in your interest area. So what do employers look for? So the NACE, National Association for Colleges and Employers, they do give us particular career competencies that the employers look for. And so this is based on the job outlook of 2023. And those skills are communication, critical thinking, teamwork, professionalism, equity and inclusion, technology, career self-development, and leadership. If you realize that these competencies are definitely ongoing skill sets that employers ask of us as we are able to apply for different positions of our interest. And so as the NACE survey gets out to employers every year, this is the ranking that the employers have deemed important to them and that they also seek proficiency in them. Now, what do employers seek on your resume? So there's a variety of different skill sets. And again, these are to no surprise to us. We see them throughout various different job descriptions as we get to apply for internships or jobs. So the attribute or your competence that they're looking for is your ability to problem solve skills, right? Ability to work in a team, have a strong work ethic, have initiative, your communication skills, and so on. So it's a pretty long list of different skill sets that are important, but as you take a look at your industries, you will be able to see that for the most part, these are the overarching skill sets that most industries will be asking for or looking for in various candidates. Now, why is all this important to employers? Well, you're a valuable source of skill to them, and you bring a value and a plethora of experiences that they are going to be able to benefit from. You have the capacity to transfer or bring along your skill sets to the organization and develop it further. Your skills also are applicable in all positions or industries. So your skills are very important. So remember that it's just learning how to speak about them and how to make them relevant to what the opportunity that the employer is asking or looking for candidates in is going to be evaluating. Also, employers seek concrete examples of what that experience or that skill set that you have because they are looking for that skill match. So when employers ask you in interviews about particular skill sets or they ask you about, in the behavior-based set of questions, tell me about a time we work in a team or a particular project that was challenging in analytical, utilizing your analytical skill set. So they're looking to have very specific or concrete ways that you can exemplify how you've been able to handle that particular skill. Now, Our skills in action. So again, these are a variety of different skill sets and how do we communicate them. Obviously, when we look at communication, we're looking at how we express our ideas to others, right? In terms of our public speaking, how it's also part of written and reports, or through email, very basic component of our communication. Our leadership, how do we assess and manage emotions of others, right? And how do we show empathy? And our critical thinking, how do we analyze information? How do we gather it? How do we interpret it? And how we come up with insights based on what that data says so that we can show innovative information based on what the data is communicating. And obviously, our ability to work in groups and obviously being able to negotiate or manage conflict if that's the case. So when you think about yourselves, you do have a lot of skill sets. You have the ability to learn and adapt quickly, regardless of what particular area of study you are in. You're definitely thriving in competitive environments. You have to think on your feet. You're definitely leading a group or a project. You can definitely perform under pressure. You're writing all the time in various different forms, whether it be through your class papers, through dissertations, or through just different reporting. Obviously, you can convey complex information to an expert or non-expert audience. And so you're able to also have that self-motivation because it takes a lot of discipline to be able to, get through a lot of the demands of your academic program. Now, how do you translate your skills? So we're looking at it, for example, if you have the ability to thrive in competitive environments, this is where your wording or your action verbs are really important. You may want to think about awarded or showcased or demonstrated, or if you are in a position where you're leading a group or a project, you design, you administered, or you chaired a particular number of team members. If you're able to write at all different levels, as mentioned before, you acquired or you negotiated, you co-authored, and obviously being able to convey complex information, you assess, you identify, explore, or you investigate. This is just some initial ideas or examples of how you want to start thinking about your translating of your skill sets according to the positions of your interest based on the industry that you want to go into. Now, our skills are transferable, into all different types of industries. So you translate them in terms of, if you want to go into healthcare, government, whether you want to stay in the academy or go into industry, where if it's banking or engineering, policy, entertainment, you name it. It's, again, the transferable skill is going to go with you wherever that interest you have. All right, so I wanted to do a simple activity with you all. So if you want to join me and tell me by just, utilizing this QR code here, and think about your current or past experiences or activities. When it comes to identifying our transferable skills, this is something that we're not thinking on a day-to-day basis. So we have to definitely do a little bit of reflection and think about what are the skill sets that I'm gaining in class, or through my internship, or through my involvement in school, or through my volunteer, whatever, however you are spending your time, you're identifying and you're cultivating skill sets. You just have to be able to call them out and have them ready for use. And so again, think about your current or past experiences. What did you engage during that particular experience? And then what are some skills that you can showcase that you have learned and developed by doing those skill sets. So I'm going to go to the next slide and see what your responses are. So either take a screenshot of this particular QR code or through your phone, and let's just see what's happening. So hopefully this works. All right, awesome. Positivity, dedicated, teamwork, learning, great. Anything else? Communication, yeah, definitely. Empathy, for sure. Yeah, this is great. Working in a team. Yes, for sure. Thank you for participating. Inclusion, yes. Organizational skills, yes. Teamwork and communication are big for sure. Leadership. Wow, this is great. So you see how you're already thinking about what those skill sets are. And so now that you're giving them a name, it's now more about, okay, so how do I communicate that to the employer as I really gain to understand what is the employer asking in this particular description? What is it that, what type of example can I provide to the employer that will solidify and make it very concrete that I can communicate, I have leadership skills, communication skills, critical thinking, that I can excel working in a team, that I have organizational skill sets. So this is great. Thank you so much for participating. This is definitely what I was looking for to see from you, how you are able to just give the skill sets you have a name, because they do have a name. Okay, so now I wanted to jump into a job description sample. Okay, here's a QR code. It's a pretty lengthy description, but I wanted to just also provide it in this form too, so that I can just kind of show you how to utilize the description as a way to connect yourself to the opportunity. The position is pretty much the description, the blueprint of what the employer is looking for. So you want to make sure that you first read throughout the whole job description, really just, think about what is it this employer is asking for, highlight different keywords that are repeating or experiences they're asking for. So as I was going through this exercise myself, I was able to highlight different areas that were important in my estimation. So obviously Gilead is a research-based pharmaceutical company, okay? They discover, develop, and commercialize innovative medicines. Obviously they simplify care for people. In this particular internship, they are looking for specifically high impact, meaningful projects. It's a very high impact project-based opportunity. They're looking for innovation, okay? And they are also able to repeat throughout the description that it's a research project you'll be working on that is regarding building regulatory affairs policy, that you'll be in a position to analyze the Gilead Sciences portfolio, okay? And there's a little bit more, so just bear with me. Further with this particular position, they went ahead and highlighted that 75% is going to be this particular type of research, and there's more research involved, there's more research mentioned. There is going to be science writing involved, because obviously it will be presented to different agencies, and obviously be a presentation attached. There's going to be this particular project, regulatory intelligence project, assess the impact, obviously impacting Gilead's oncology portfolio. You'll be doing research in a quantitative and qualitative analysis form. You'll definitely be partnering, collaborating as well through this particular project. You'll be doing background research for these particular agencies, identifying potential areas for clarity or anything that can be forthcoming, develop a research methodology and project plan, again, analyze relevant qualitative and quantitative information, present findings, and the opportunity to submit the project either through an article form, through a professional society, or through a journal or a conference, and also showcasing through a final poster board at the conclusion of the internship. So it's very thorough in terms as to what they have asked for. Now I'm gonna quickly just check the Q&A here and see what you have. Okay, any particular questions so far? Okay, so the recording will be available to you after, and also the PowerPoint as well. So no worries in terms of getting access to this information. So any questions so far in terms of the presentation of the description? I know that it's a variety of different majors that are present with me here today, But my goal here is really just to show you how to dissect the description and really start getting into the practice of getting into what is the message of this particular job if this were to be one that you would be interested in. So now that we've gone through looking at the description in entirety, now let's take a look at more information that I thought was important for us to know. They actually give you more preferred qualifications, but this just kind of becomes more like a very brief summary. But one core thing that Gilead was able to showcase is their values: integrity, inclusion, teamwork, and excellence. And so I would feel that, mentioning these values through the space of the cover letter, for example, can give you, a head up as far as showing the employer how that it's not just about the job in itself that you're much interested in, but also what the company stands for. They're giving you their values. So, do you connect with their integrity value? What is doing what's right? Do you agree and value inclusion and teamwork and excellence? So when you think about writing the cover letter, think about that it's not just, yes, I'm applying for this position, which is obviously known because or else you wouldn't be preparing the document for the employer, but give yourself a voice. You don't have to start by saying, I'm interested in, the graduate intern global regulatory policy intelligence position with Gilead. My background is aligns with what you're looking for, and I just kind of leave it very general. So incorporate a little bit more your core values, I would say, not just through the intro paragraph, but also throughout the variety of different experiences that you may want to showcase as it would pertain to this position. That's why it's important, again, that you really pay attention to the position description because they are giving you a lot of information that's very valuable for you to pay attention to. So based on all the different areas of the description I was able to highlight, now this is kind of like my summary. So again, they want high impact projects, right? I'll be making that particular print in the organization. Someone that's innovative, that is obviously doing a research project, analyzing research, writing science-based articles, again, assessing the impact and obviously impacting the work that Gilead does. So research is throughout this particular description. Innovation, working with partners, giving solutions to the problem, being cutting edge, right? And so when you think about this position, how would you be able to align yourself? And so you have to go through that area of organizing your experience and connecting the dots for the employer, okay? So in my next slide here, I wanted to show you, again, this is now in a more of a summary, what I need to show on my resume or CV, okay? So again, I wanna show and assess the impact or innovation that I've made, whichever way has come through my experience, okay? And obviously through the research and analysis perspective, the scientific writing, providing insights, findings, and presentations based on your research. Obviously that you know how to work in partnerships, right? That you can present findings. And then obviously if at some point you have already been part of a project that has included a submission or showcased, a final poster board or presentation, being able to showcase that is going to be very important to the employer. Remember, they're assessing that fit, that skill match as well. Okay, so I wanted to show you, well, how do we make that happen, right? And so when it comes to the resume or your CV, you want to make sure that you deviate from just giving a job description of the work that you do. A job description is not going to be helpful. We are looking for those action-oriented statements. So I have this small formula here, bullet form formula. The action word, which equates to the skill. The two-part or the transition phrase is the why or the purpose. And then the result or the impact. What is the unique value you provided to the employer that you last worked at or that you're currently working at. And so you want to make sure that the resume is not for audience of you, but for audience of whomever the job, is for that company, and making sure that the information you write makes sense to someone that doesn't know you. So I wanted to show you what a responsibility oriented bullet form looks like. Worked as a research assistant in a writing program. So if you were the employer, what would you make of this? Okay, so you gave me the title and you gave me, the area that you're working in a writing program. That's it. There's nothing else that I would or you would potentially think on my behalf, if this was my resume bullet form, that you will start giving me credit for what I do. So if I don't tell the employer right away what my message is based on what the employer is asking for, then I'm not writing that resume for the employer. I'm writing it for audience of me. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. You want to make sure that would a stranger really understand what experience I have as it relates to the position I'm applying for. So taking a look at a better example here that is more accomplishment driven. So launch a successful new study on writing skills, publish results in 2 national journals, and receive a $5,000 grant. So as you can see here, my action verb has a lot more, strength. I'm also saying that I published results in 2 journals and I received a $5,000 grant. I am giving you impact. I'm giving you results. Now, let's say, for example, you don't have a number amount to provide. Always think about what is it that the employer that you're currently working with, or through the work that you're doing in your program, in your classes, if there isn't a tangible specific impact just yet, what is that particular example or experience you're providing on your resume meant to accomplish? You're working towards something. So it's not always that, well, I don't have any numbers, therefore I can't put it down on paper. You are the author of your experience, and so whatever you put on your resume is going to be because you find it valuable and important and concrete for the employer to know about your experience as it relates to that job. Do any of you have any questions up to this point? Anything that comes to mind? Just checking the chat, the Q&A area really quick. Anything that comes to mind? If not, I will continue. All right, so as anything comes up to you, please let me know. Oh, sorry. I'm not going too far here. Okay, so moving on. So the difference, obviously, in a bullet form that's just very responsibility oriented to one that is more accomplishment oriented, is that they're tailored to the job. You want to be quantitative in nature if you can, and results oriented as well. So always keep that in mind. Always provide concrete information when it comes to your bullet points. Give an outcome, okay, because you are showcasing what skills and what benefit you have provided to that particular employer. Okay, I see there's some questions. Let's see what we have. Okay. Okay, so let's see. One of the questions is, how specific should it be about research topics in a technical CV? Well, again, understand what the job is asking for, okay? Remember that you are the author of your experience, and if you feel that the research topics that you're providing are relevant to that position, it's your call to provide them. Now, we're not asking, for example, to give like 20 different research topics. You know what I mean? Pick and choose relevant ones. Relevancy is the key word, okay? So that your resume doesn't become 3 pages. I think that's another question that might come along the way as well, is that when it comes to having a variety of different experiences, we always, suggest that 1 page should be able to cover what you need to say in relation to that position. But if it's two, make it relatable, two pieces of paper that speak to your skill level, your expertise area, your matching as to what the employer is looking for. What about having older experiences that are relevant? Definitely, that is something that you can definitely write on your resume. So for example, if your most current experience is not as relevant, what you can do is have, for example, your education. And when it gets to the experience piece, you can say relevant experience and what that entails. And then following up with additional experience if you like, or you can incorporate them within that relevancy space. So I know that a lot of times we say, okay, your resume has to be in reverse chronological order, meaning most recent activities or experiences first. But again, it may not be the case for you. So you definitely want to make sure that your relevancy is really up to the third top of the page of your resume. Okay, so make sure that that's something that you have aware of, that you're aware of that. How old of an experience would you say is reasonable to include? Well, it just depends, right? We don't looking for 10 or more years of experience. That's too much. I would say, so much the way that I would say applicants change jobs in our time is much faster than before. So if you want to list up to the last 5 years, that's totally fine. You just don't want to provide so much information that's so old that is going to reveal, the whole age perspective onto your resume. So again, relevancy is very important. Just because you may not be able to write everything that you've done as far as your experience, it doesn't mean that you're less valuable to some extent, if that makes sense. Because remember, what you're putting on paper first is what's going to capture the interest and the interest of the employer to contact you. Anything else that they want to know, believe me, they'll ask you through the interview process, and that's where you have the freedom to incorporate examples that come from a current experience or maybe from past experience as well. So it's just so that your resume pretty much considers is the bait that you're throwing out there into the that particular employer's posting or way to recruit you. And then once they call you in, now you have their attention to speak more about other experiences that you may feel are more pertinent to what they may be asking you in the interview. So, but the main goal first is make sure that your resume is tailored to that specific position. These are great questions. So definitely thank you for that. All right. Oh, I think I forgot one. Let's see here. How can we know the impact? Well, the impact is something that you will know because you're the one that's working on the particular project, right? And so if you don't, if that's something that's not communicated to you, by all means, check in with your supervisor and ask in terms of how the project is doing. Is it moving along with the initial things that it was supposed to accomplish? How is the work that you're doing impacting? If that's the conversation you can have with your supervisor. If not, you ought to be able to know how your work is impacting, the general aspect of the work that you're doing for that particular project too. Okay, so, all right. All right, thank you for the questions. Keep them coming. And let me move on here. Okay, so we do have some resources that I highly suggest that you tap into through the Career Center. I know that, assessing what skill sets we have and even trying to identify them is like a whole another, seems like a big task, but there are resources that we have available to you. For example, your next step is a career assessment tool that definitely takes a look into your values, your skills, if you have more that entrepreneurial type of interest. Skill Up is a great resource as well. For example, if you know that there are some skill sets that you need to, be getting under your toolkit, I would say this is what will help you identify what those are. if you're, for example, a PhD student, and even if you're not, by the way, this is a great resource. Imagine PhD is it's a free resource you can sign up for, and it has a skills assessments area. So all of these particular resources I'm talking about right now, they're career development, focused, and so it gives you a skills assessment types of questions or that you can answer, and it's going to assess what those skill sets are for you. And then once you do that, identify them through the work that you do. Versatile PhD is another one. Through Options for Success is a career exploration course that they have. Same concept. They're there to help you with that first step in the career development process, where you need to know you. And the you starts with what's my value, what's important to you, what skills or experiences do I have, what are my temperament, my personality, things like that, so that when you look at the opportunity to start applying for positions, is not just because it's the job in itself, but you're going to go work with people. You want to make sure you also identify companies that align with who you are, what your values are, what's important to you. And there's a question in the chat. Let me check really quick. Anything else? Okay. Correct. I did mention that. So for example, Imagine PhD, it's a free resource that you can access online, Imagine PhD. So for Versatile PhD, this one is, that one is more specifically accessed by PhD students through the system, only because we do pay a subscription into that one. But I know that Imagine PhD is as valuable as Versatile PhD. So you don't have to feel like, well, I can't access it because I'm not a PhD student. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, and just remember the PowerPoint and the recording will be made available to you. Okay, so other online resources, this is, online. So the Own It Online is another tool that's created by the BLS. And again, it has a soft skills type of assessment tool as well, that once you are able to select what your skills are, for example, then it just makes that connection to certain occupations. So that's a really cool tool. Truity.com as well has different assessments you can tap into, whether it be career tests, personality tests. And so it gives you a lot of great information that, knowing more about the self. And also Career One Stop, it has a skills matcher type of, toolkit that it has available to you. So this is online for you that we can all utilize to, build up that toolkit, that repertoire of skill sets that we all have, and that we just need to give them a voice and give specific examples of how we use them through our daily work. All right, so please follow us on all the different social media sites. Instagram is always very hot and coming, and so we post a lot of the up and coming information or events that we have on Connect SC for you. Any other questions? That's all I have for you. Anything that's coming to mind as you have heard some of the information I wanted to share with you tonight? Anything else that you want to discuss? Anything that didn't make sense in this presentation? Let's see the questions here. If we are online only students, how do we do resume CV reviews? Yeah, so you can actually make an appointment, to meet with us. I know that we do have our drop-ins for a resume review or just very general questions that are handled during a 15-minute conversation. Through an appointment, transparency, there is no specific selection that says resume or CV, to review them. What I would suggest is just select counseling, and when you meet with us, we'll definitely obviously address whatever needs you may have. And if the CV or resume is your topic, then that's fine as well. The only reason why we don't make specifically appointments for resume or CVs is because we will not be able to see other students, that have other concerns as well. So that's why the fastest way to get your resume review will be through an appointment, obviously one, or we do have VMOC, which is our online resume review system that's available to you 24/7. So VMOC. And so that's another way that you can also take advantage of having your CV and resume reviewed. It's a very thorough online system that we have, and we have it in place because of the massive volume of requests that we have in this area. So it's going to help you with a lot of the foundational, information that we put in a resume, from the choice of action verbs to the fact that you may need to make your bullet points a lot more accomplishment driven. Okay. So, all right. Let's see. Does this CV model apply to application for PhD admissions? Yeah. Again, what, the particular PhD program you are looking into. Remember that you're the best person that can provide information about who you are and what you bring forth into that particular program. So definitely, it's always about relevancy, what you bring to the table. We're the main career center, so we don't specialize in any particular area as far as like the whole university with the different programs that it has. So we are more generalist, but believe me, as an MSW, we do see a lot of your peers in the career center. So, I would say, give us a try, and give us a chance to help you, so at the end of the day, it's experience and it's advice that will give you in helping you move forward in your job search process, whether it be through your resume, through the interview process, to negotiating salary. So utilize the services that are there for you. And also, after you become an alum, you will be able to use our services up to 3 years out. You'll be able to meet with us 4 times a year, and those 4 times that you meet with us, they'll be each 50-minute sessions pretty much. So we'll be able to assist you, even after you are done with your program at SC. Any other questions? Anything else that comes to mind? Any other questions? Anything else that you might be curious about? I want to thank you for joining me. I know that this information, it will be important not just for your next journey and looking for the opportunity of your interest, but this is a life skill. I would say that it's very important to really have a hold of, and it will be helpful to you not just right now, but even beyond USC. So anything else that you are curious about? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I don't want to keep you longer than I need to. Again, the recording will be available to you. We'll post it on our YouTube channel, and I'll be able to email you the presentation as well. Thank you for joining me today, and without further ado, I don't think there's any more questions on the chat. So yeah, thank you again. I appreciate you engaging with me, asking the questions. This is the time, to get those, questions answers that you had. We're here to help you. Again, reach out to us. And also remember too that you have your school-based career centers as well, whether you're Viterbi or Annenberg or Cinematic Arts, or Marshall. They all have different resources for you as well. So use your resources very well while you're here at USC, um, and make the best of what's available to you. All right, so it looks like that's everything for tonight. Again, thank you so much, and I will make this recording available to you. So thank you so much for joining me, and fight on and have a great evening. Take care.